Broadcast on. And looks like we are live. Let's try this one last time, people. What's up? My name is Chance Ellison, and this is, for the second time, the last episode of Full Metal Fight. I tried this again. I really did try to do it the first time, but my melon crapped out. That got because screw me for trying to end the show correctly. Regardless, this is going to be the last Full Metal 5, and I have a great panel. But there's been some changes from the last time. If you were one of the people who actually got to watch the original stream, I do have some changes. Let's start with my originals. First of which, he was on the last one. He was a question writer for Full Metal Trivia. He is a question writer currently for the Schmodown, and he did win the Stephen King match. It is Jeremy Adams. Jeremy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm happy to try this again. Like I said before, this topic's very close to my heart. The first author I really became a fan of as a kid was Stephen King. I've read pretty much all his books, and I've been following the films based on his stuff since the 80s, and it's just a real passion of mine. So I have a lot of opinions, a lot of movies I love, and I'm excited to get into this tonight.
Respect. Next to him, he's the other person who was on the last show. I'm super glad they decided to come back. It is Luca Fallon. Luca, how you doing?
I made a Tommyknockers joke in the last Stephen King top 5 we did that didn't go well because the Langoliers literally ate up that time. I'm looking forward to this. As much as I'd love to be talking about Michael Crichton movies and talking about Congo and shit like that, sometimes you got to cut your losses.
The top 5 moments of Congo is that I had that idea, but I scrapped it because I'm pretty sure all 5 moments be no, the diamonds are here.
As long as it's not Sphere, that movie sucks.
Congo
also sucks, for the record.
Yeah, that's true.
Congo's not very good. Next two, these are the two new people. First of which, you may think this is Russell Howell. It is in fact not. It is his counterpart. It is Brian Michaels. Brian, how you doing, buddy?
I am fine. I am still not Russell Howell. No, it's I'm happy I could help fill in after you had some other people that couldn't make the new date. I've done a couple of the Full Metal 5s before, and I'm glad I could be here for your last one here on Full Metal, and I'm gonna have some fun.
Respect, man. Respect. And next to him, someone who throughout the show I pray won't disappoint me. I'm betting he will, but there's always a chance he couldn't. It is Hunter Chambliss. Hunter, how you doing?
How's it going, guys? I've actually watched more movies. Yes. So let's do this.
So unless the movies make the list, are the 7 that Hunter's actually seen? It's not going to be myself.
7? You're giving him a lot of credit there, Chance.
Yeah.
I have faith in you. Okay, fine. If I'm being honest, it's more like 3.5.
Yeah.
I really don't think you.
3.5.
Because I don't think he finished Shawshank, so that's the half.
Okay.
So
okay.
Basically, you all know how this works, but in case you don't, you should. I'll explain it anyway. So the way this works is we curate a top 5 list right here live for you. What we do is we work in 3 different selection processes. The first one is the nominations period. What we're just going to do is we're going to go around and nominate a Stephen King movie that to make the top 7. In order for a movie to make the top 7, it has to get 3/5 majority votes. Now, some of you may be wondering, we had 3 movies on the last panel that made the list. But you know what? Since half the panel is different, I decided to wipe the slate clean. There is nothing on the list anymore. Everything's fair game. We are redoing this list from scratch, which means this is going to be interesting. So I'm going to go with my first nomination last time. It is, like I said, I usually like to play my cards a little closer to my chest, but because this is the last one, I thought, you know what, why not live a little bit? Because my first nomination is The Shawshank Redemption. Now, The Shawshank Redemption, I think, is a movie. This is a very good movie that it's about 2 great performances from both Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins. Morgan Freeman probably should have won the Oscar, but then again, he was against Tom Hanks, so that's not really saying a whole lot. It got a great message to it, and it really, you walk away from that movie with a great sense. You walk away with a warm feeling, walk away with a great sense of hope, and you walk away with a really, It's a really good feeling to walk away with. It's one of his most uplifting stories, one most easily accessible, and I think it's definitely one of his best. So I'm putting Shawshank Redemption up for my first nomination. I'm going to go to Jeremy for his first votes.
Yeah, this movie came out when I was 15, a little peek into how old I am. Had a huge impact on me. I'd already read the novella that it's based on, but seeing that movie at that age was very formative. It's a movie about, friendship and doing the right thing and making the best of really the most unthinkably horrible situations that you can find yourself in, having hope when you really maybe shouldn't or don't have any reason to be, but finding something. And it's, and beyond that, it's a great escape story. I mean, it's a fantastic, well-constructed story that Stephen King came up with. And yeah, everything works. Frank Darabont, it's his debut film, which is kind of amazing, at least his debut theatrical feature. And the performances all across the board, Tim Robbins, Morgan Freeman, of course, and then going to the supporting cast like William Sadler, the great Clancy Brown, Bob Gunton as the warden. It's just, it's great. And it's one of those movies that, I think just gets better every time you watch it, which Minnie will attest to. It's one that a lot of people will see on cable, on TBS or whatever, and will watch many times over. And it's one that, if I come across that, I can just sit down and watch it. It's one of the very few that I feel that way about. And it's a great film. So it's a yes for me.
All right. So that is one yes from Jeremy. And he did say yes the last time we did this. Now I'm going to someone to see if they changed their mind. Luca, Shawshank Redemption.
I've changed my mind about a Frank Darabont prison movie, but this is not the Frank Darabont prison movie that I've changed my mind about.
Okay, that's a lie. You did not change your mind.
I still think it's a great film. Tim Robbins is one of my favorite actors of the 90s, and the relationship between him and Morgan Freeman is fantastic. Morgan Freeman's speech about rehabilitation and what the prison system kind of means is I think, genuinely one of the better monologues in all of cinema. But I do think that, to me, the film hasn't aged super well. I don't necessarily like a lot of the pacing of it, and it's not my favorite Frank Darabont prison Stephen King movie. So I'm still going to give it a no.
Gee, I wonder what he's talking about. That field is I don't
know.
It's so broad. It's so broad. I have no idea. All right, so we're at the same place we're at 2-1 split. I'm gonna go to Hunter, see if he's actually seen this movie. Hunter, have you seen The Shawshank Redemption?
I have seen it. It's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time, and it's a definite yes. Everything that Jeremy said and more. I love the relationship between Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman. I love the whole idea of hope in a dark situation, and just the acting is incredible. The shots are amazing. It's a definite yes for me.
All right, so just like the first time we did this, Shawshank is the first movie to make the top 7. All right, so I got that written down. Brian, you did not get a vote. What would you have said about Shawshank?
I don't love Shawshank the way a lot of other people do, but I definitely think it's a good movie, and it would definitely, in my opinion, make at least the top 7 on this list. So
okay, well, all right, let's see where we go. So, Brian, you did not get a vote last time. Let's go to you for your first nomination.
Interesting.
Okay, I'm going to go with a movie that I think is not only one of Stephen King's best adaptations, but one of the best coming-of-age stories of all time, based on another novella of his, The Body, when he was under Richard Bachman. It's Stand By Me. I think Stand By Me was a great film. I think it was full of great performances by its young cast, from Will Wheaton, River Phoenix, and I think only a second film role after Explorers. Jerry O'Connell as the chubby kid. And of course Corey Feldman. But I loved everyone in the cast. I loved the story. I thought it was touching, and it was just everything I like in a good coming of age film. So I'm nominating Stand By Me.
I love how Corey Feldman gets an of course credit. That's the big takeaway. Corey
Feldman.
The one and only Corey Feldman.
Well, even he was good in the movie.
There is only one. Thank God.
There's only one. Jesus. There's only one Corey Feldman. And Stand By Me is up for top.
You'll hear his music.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Hit the club, tell him. Oh my God. Okay. For people watching, if you have not seen Corey Feldman on Good Morning America. You have to go watch it. It's a delight.
Go for it.
All right. We need to keep moving. So, Stand By Me is up for top 7. I'm going to go to me first. And I'm in an interesting spot right now. I'm going to give this one a yes. Granted, I did miss a question on this in my last team match with Mike Kalinowski. Goddamn misery. Goddamn Rob Reiner. But yeah, no, this is a great movie. It's a great movie about friendship and growing with your friends, and just it's a great journey story. I mean, the four leads have great chemistry, but also like you got John Cusack, who is really used very sparingly in the movie, but he's still great. Kiefer Sutherland, probably the best Stephen King bully of all time, which I know is not a super wide field, but he's still really great in the movie. That movie is just a who's who of like young up and coming actors. So all of them give great performances. It's so many great moments. Like, who doesn't remember, like, walk by a railroad track and think to yourself, train! So, like, a lot of great scenes, a lot of good moments, and yes, I definitely give Stand By Me a yes.
I'm always aware of leeches anytime I'm in the water. So.
I'm gonna go to Hunter next. Stand By Me.
It's gonna be a yes for me again. I love the interaction between the kids. I love the whole kind of adventure of it. Like, they're out, they're exploring. It's kind of fun, and then they come across a dead body and just like, oh shit, Just the whole interaction between the kids is great. The comedy is good when it's added in there. Everything just works for me, so it's gonna be a yes.
All right, so that is I don't know if Hunter really loves this movie, or we just happened to hit one of the ones he'd seen. But Stand By Me.
No, I really do love
that
movie.
Well, I believe you. Jeremy, Luke, you guys didn't get votes. So, Luke, what would you say about Stand By Me?
Yeah, I actually would have said yes to this one too. I'm not like a massive fan of a lot of like 1980s coming of age like group of kids movies. I love the Monster Squad for obvious reasons, but like Goonies didn't really do it for me.
Yeah.
I'm me. But like Goonies didn't do it for me. But like the thing about Stand By Me that I really love is that these kids they really do feel like real kids, and like they have the occasional trap of falling into where they kind of talk like small adults, like very, very occasionally. But usually, like they really do sound like kids that you could know, like in the 80s, or kids that you could know today. Like the situations that they're put in, I think are quite of the time. With the 50s, right? Like they're specifically
late 50s. Yeah.
Late 50s, yeah.
And that sort of idea of adventure in that kind of sense is very much of that time, but the kids could belong to any time period, and I think that's a really, really special thing. I think Rob Reiner, as always, directs it very well. He's got a great sort of eye as a filmmaker, and I think the script is great. It was nominated for an Academy Award, and I think it deserved it. I think it's a really, really lovely story about growing up, about friendship, and about sort of the hardships of growing up in a world that is occasionally scary, but always genuinely full of wonder. I think it's a great film. I would have said yes.
Now let the record show you love Monster Squad because Monster Squad is awesome. That's
yeah.
Because it's fucking bomb, because Wolfman's got nards.
It's way better than the Goonies.
And it's Shane Black.
Oh,
yeah.
No, I would go that far.
I agree.
Yes.
Would go that far. But yeah, what would you say about Stand By Me?
Infinitely better than the Goonies.
That's a lie.
Yes.
What would you say?
Stand By Me absolutely would have been a yes for me. I agree with Brian that it is one of the great coming-of-age movies, and it's actually one of the few Stephen King adaptations I think is better than the source material. There was some added stuff that Stephen King put in the body that kind of detracts from it, but they distilled everything down for the movie. It's very tight. It's a movie that makes a tremendous impact in only I think it's only 87 minutes long, and that's really a great film that can do that can hit you to short length movies. The lesson people haven't learned in 2018 is movies don't always have to be long and stretched out in over 2 hours. Like, they can be shorter, to the point, and concise. This is one of the best versions of that. The kids are great together, and I just want to give a shout out to Richard Dreyfuss as the narrator. Yes. I think that the book ends with his narration really add to it, and the last final lines that he has, and when you find out what happened to these kids years later, it's very powerful and always gets a tear in my eye. And it's a great film. And it's one of those ones that's great to have, because Stephen King isn't all just the horror stuff. Like, there's a lot of multitudes of different experiences in his work and in the adaptations.
It's one of many Stephen King adaptations I think is better than the source material.
Well, that's also not a
I don't know about that. He's a good writer, guys. He's a good writer.
Also speaking of short concise movies, go check out Avengers Endgame, which is told in 3 hours and 2 minutes.
Yeah.
This summer. Jared, we go to you for your first nomination.
All right, well, like you, Chance, I'm going to stick with the one that I had before, and I just feel like I got to jump back to the beginning and do the first adaptation, which is Brian De Palma's Carrie. Carrie, I think, is still a really great film. It's young Brian De Palma at the height of his powers as a director, taking Stephen King's first widely published novel, the story about a young girl in high school who lives with a religious, crazy mom who hasn't experienced the stuff that other kids have experienced. She's bullied at school by the other girls, and then you slowly come to realize she's got this psychic gift, this telekinesis, and you know something big's going to happen. And there's great performances. Sissy Spacek, I think, is tremendous in that movie. Piper Laurie is tremendous as the crazy evil mother. Young John Travolta is very good in it. I think Amy Irving is good as Sue Snell. But what really makes the movie, I think, powerful is that climax. You know, it's all building, and it builds to one of the most memorable climaxes. And just the direction from De Palma in those scenes is incredible. The techniques that he uses, split screen and different things to bring that whole prom sequence to life. It's unforgettable, and the movie kind of helped create the jump scare with its ending at the very end there, which I think made a big impact on people at the time, and obviously led to what we would get over and over in the slasher movies that would follow. And I just think the movie still holds up. And if you have any doubts about the quality of Carrie, all you have to do is look at the remake, the 2 remakes and the sequel that were made later on, and then you can just see how strong that film is. So my nomination is Carrie.
There's two remakes?
Yeah, there was a TV remake.
Yeah. It was one in the
02.
90s, I think.
02 was the TV remake. The sequel was in the 90s, yeah.
All right. Well, either way, Carrie is back on the table for us. I'm going to go to Luca first because he didn't get a vote last time.
Yeah, so I think I actually rewatched Carrie before we did the...
Did we lose?
There
we go. Lost you for a second,
we good?
Luca. You're back.
You're good now. You're good.
Okay. I rewatched this film before we did the last one, and I'd always kind of considered it one of my favorites. But watching it again, it's surprisingly kind of even better than I remembered it. It was in my top 7 before rewatching it, and like after rewatching it, it's really gone up that list. What strikes me the most about it is just how well De Palma and Spacek and everyone involved really conveys the tragedy of this story. Because like I don't view Carrie as a horror film. I view it as really a tragedy, because it's the story of this one girl who has this thing that makes her different, and she starts to really learn how to accept herself and how to become a woman and how to stand up to the people who are keeping her down, whether it's her mother or whether it's the bullies or whether it's her principal, for example. And she's really learning to become herself.
Did we lose him again?
I think we lost him again.
You just give him a second.
I think that...
Oh, there he goes. Go ahead.
There we go.
Did I cut out again?
Yeah, a little bit, but you're good now.
Okay, long and short of it, yes.
Seconds, well.
It's a beautifully tragic, beautifully written story with an incredible central performance, and it's an absolute yes for me.
All right, so that is one yes for Carrie. Now I'm gonna go to see. I think Brian threw it the last one, so I'm gonna go to Brian for
Here we go.
His vote.
Well, I'll keep it short. I'm not going to go into a big thing about it, but I know that I am in the minority opinion. I don't really care for Carrie at all, but I know it has a lot of fans. A lot of people love it, and it's just not my kind of thing, I guess. But I know I'm going to be outvoted, so let's just go on to the next person. I'll say no. It's the kind of thing. It's like I can respect that it's a well-made movie. I just didn't enjoy it as much as a lot of other people. So, but I know it hits home for them. So
that's the case with a lot of movies, with you, Brian.
Yeah, it is. That's why you have me on here.
Well, we all have those.
Yeah, we all have those.
Fair.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm going to go on to me next. Yeah, I rewatched. This was actually just outside my top 7 before this topic creeped up, and I rewatched it again. And yeah, I'm kind of the same about Luca. It kind of really elevated upon a rewatch. The point where, yeah, I do think I am willing to give it. I'm willing to give this a yes to put it in the top 7. So keep in mind we're back to two of the same top 3 we already have on the list because Carrie's already on. Now, Hunter, you just watched this film like an hour ago. So
Yes, I did.
What would you say about Carrie?
I would have said
Fresh in your
yes.
mind.
I watched it with open eyes, and one thing I really loved about this movie is how the bullying.
It's best to not watch movies with your eyes closed, guys.
Yeah, it's always best to watch movies with your eyes.
Yeah, don't be a Roka blindfolded watching.
But how realistic the bullying scenes were, and how tragic this whole movie was. Brian De Palma did such a great job with this movie. I would have given it a yes.
Okay, now let the record show the new technique of blindfolding yourself to absorb the knowledge of movies through your ears, now called the Hunter Chambliss training technique.
Hopefully it worked because my trivia is awful. So
give it a shot. You can't get anywhere. I'm gonna go to Hunter next. Hunter, you're the last one to. Oh no, you're not. No, you're not. Because Luke is after you. I'm gonna go to you next.
all right, so I'm going with one that when I first saw it creeped the fuck out of me. I'm going Misery.
Oh.
And the reason it scared the hell out of me is because, like, Paul Sheldon is isolated in this house. He cannot move. He's bedridden. And just the torture scenes and the isolation and the quietness. And Kathy Bates gives a Oscar-winning performance. It's such a great movie. And she's fucking terrifying in that movie. So I'm going Misery.
All right, so we got the second Rob Reiner Stephen King movie on the table. I'm gonna go to Jeremy first.
Yeah, this is a yes. Misery is a great movie. It's a great kind of classic thriller. There's no supernatural weirdness, no ghosts, no haunted hotels. It's just a guy gets in an accident. He's trapped with a psychopath, and she's one of the most memorable, great psychos you'll ever see. Kathy Bates very deservedly won a Best Actress Oscar for this film. I think that, again, it's a great adaptation of the book because the book's a little more ghoulish, a little crazier. There's a scene where Annie rides over a highway patrolman with a riding lawnmower.
It is a lawnmower.
and some weird things. And, of course, famously uses an axe in the movie, whereas in the book, whereas in the film, in the book, and then in the film, she uses like a sledgehammer, and it's actually, I think, a really good change. I think that the way that they kind of distilled it down to this kind of character piece with some great moments of horror and suspense works perfectly. This was I think kind of a change of pace for Rob Reiner. He'd shown, in Stand By Me, there were some kind of creepy moments, but he hadn't really done a movie like this up to this point, and he really knocked it out of the park. I mean, you could go so far as to say it's Hitchcockian in some ways, and it's way up there for me. I remember seeing this, I think it was the first time when I was like 11, and like you, Hunter, it definitely packed a wallop. And I say, he didn't get out of the cock-a-doodle car. I quote that all the time. So anytime one of those Marvel movies or something screws something up or retcon something, that's always what I think of. So it's a yes.
He never left the car. All right, so that's one yes for Misery. I'm gonna go back to Brian.
I mean, we're gonna go 4 for 4 on this one because Misery is definitely gonna make my list. Just to echo what everybody else said, I mean, the performances are great. Kathy Bates as Annie Wilkes was amazing. Rob Reiner really shows that he knows how to work Stephen King stories and shape them to work for the screen. There's so many directors that will take a movie or take a book and try and be so direct with it that it doesn't work as a movie, which a lot of Stephen King movies do not work as movies. But the Rob Reiner seems to know how to shape them just right to make a good movie out of them, and it's great. It's easy to boil it down to moments like the hobbling or the cock-a-doodle car thing, but when you go back and rewatch it and realize just the character involved and the acting is excellent. So definitely yes.
All right. So that's gonna do it. Misery is on the top 7. I can't talk for me exactly. Misery would have been a yes for me because first of all, Kathy Bates in Misery might be my favorite performance in any Stephen King movie.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
she is absolutely transcendent. She's amazing. I love her in that movie. And I think, like, as the further we've gotten as a society, the more like Misery become relevant because like the whole movie is about like an obsessive fan of harassing its creator. Like the internet was made for that movie.
Yeah.
Like it really deals with like, you know, like and it puts you in the opposite perspective. Like, do you write for yourself or do you write for your fans? And you know, what are you really doing? Like, what's your real creative muse? So there's a lot of like really like heartbreaking scenes, a lot of like some scenes that are really scary when, especially like, when you break it down, the fact that the villain of that movie essentially, it's just like a woman in a pantsuit. Well, not a pantsuit, but like
Overalls?
overall, I don't know what you call it.
What the hell she's wearing?
A woman in an Amish dress. It may as well have been a pantsuit. But yeah, I love Misery. It definitely would have been a yes for me. And Luke, what would you have said?
Yeah, it would have been a clean sweep. Misery is one of kind of a handful of Stephen King adaptation films that I can kind of say to be perfect. Because there's never really a hair wrong in that movie. The suspense is always building. It's very self-contained, so it allows itself to do everything that it does very well. It doesn't overreach. The central performances from James Caan and Kathy Bates, who is, yes, absolutely transcendent, are brilliant. They hold the film really well together. Bates has this really interesting and terrifying like seesaw between like real sweetness and encouraging and almost like motherly qualities to her, and then this just like horrendous like, oh my god, do what she says, like terror to her. I think it's a masterpiece. I really do. I think it's an absolutely brilliant film, and I kind of consider it to be Rob Reiner's best movie. Although Princess Bride is my personal favorite.
Yeah,
mine too. All right, so that's gonna do it. So Misery is on the top 7. Gonna go to Luca, even though I already know what I'm pretty sure you're gonna say. But go ahead, Luca.
Yeah, so I'm gonna talk about a movie that had an iconic, fantastic director who'd done a lot of work outside of adaptations, from the 1980s, adapted from a Stephen King property from the late 70s, a film that deals with the ability to see things that might happen, and sort of that deals with the kind of the responsibility of that. I'm going to go with 1983's The Dead Zone, with Walken and Brooke Adams, Tom Skerritt, Martin Sheen. A film about Walken's character who gets in an accident and goes into a coma and wakes up and realizes that he can see the future. He can see a person's future when he touches their hand. And he meets Michael Sheen, who plays an independent candidate for president, and basically
Martin Sheen, sorry.
Martin Sheen, sorry.
Martin.
Wait, did I say Michael Sheen?
You said Michael Sheen. I just wanted everyone to know, yeah.
And he sees that Martin Sheen is going to do some horrendous things later on, and decides that he is going to make it his point to stop him. And it's just such an interesting study of this character. And Walken brings this character to life so well. And David Cronenberg's direction is so fantastic. It really sort of puts this idea of morality and responsibility, and is doing an evil thing to stop an evil that you know is going to happen but cannot prove at all the right thing to do. I think it deals with that in a brilliant way, and I think that it's one of the most underrated Stephen King adaptations of all time, because we talk about Misery, Carrie, Stand by Me, Shawshank, and The Shining, which is the film that I was initially alluding to, and also a masterpiece. But I think that we kind of let The Dead Zone fall a little bit by the wayside when I genuinely think that both as a Stephen King adaptation and as a Cronenberg film, it's up there in the higher echelons of both of those categories, and my favorite Christopher Walken performance as well. So let's go to The Dead Zone.
All right, so wow, and that's interesting. That's for Christopher Walken, but regardless, so The Dead Zone is up for top 7. Yeah, you baited the shit out of me and Jeremy because we thought we knew where you were going.
I kind of knew that was coming.
I fell for it. So screw you, Jeremy. The Dead Zone is up for top 7. So I'm gonna take a wild goddamn guess. Hunter, have you seen The Dead Zone?
Nope.
Move
on.
And it begins.
All right.
Those are so good too.
Brian,
Yeah.
The Dead Zone doesn't make top 7.
I have seen The Dead Zone.
I believe it.
I enjoy it, but I would not put it in my top 7. There are some good performances in it. I rewatched it, I don't know, probably a year or two ago, and I wouldn't say it didn't hold up, but it just doesn't impress me as a lot of other movies that I think deserve to be on the list. So I'm gonna have to vote no on this.
All right, so that is 1 no for The Dead Zone from Brian. I'm gonna go to, well, actually, Jeremy, you gotta keep this alive. So if you say, oh shit,
Whoa.
if you say no to The Dead Zone, then it loses. So Jeremy, The Dead Zone doesn't make top 7.
Well, I will say The Dead Zone makes me sad when I watch it because I can imagine what if David Cronenberg had made more Stephen King adaptations? Like, what if he had directed Pet Sematary? What if he had directed Firestarter? I always think about this because he's one of the great directors, especially of that time period. And I think he did a fantastic job with one of my favorite Stephen King books. I think this movie is cracking right from the beginning. You have the sympathetic characters. Something horrible happens to him. 5 years pass, and to him, no time has passed, but to everyone else, it's been 5 years. That in itself is a compelling story. But then you put on top of that, all of a sudden, he can touch people and he can see things that are going to happen in their life, and the way that Cronenberg visualizes that every time that he touches someone, and you see that is so amazing and well done. And it's a great story. I mean, Luca even mentioned the whole middle section of the film, which involves a serial killer, and a very, very memorable serial killer, very great serial killer, which Stephen King detailed so well in the book. And then, David Cronenberg, he kind of took a little bit of a backseat with this movie. He didn't go too crazy, with a lot of the kind of viscera that he sometimes puts in his films. But there's one moment in this movie, and I know Luca knows what I'm talking about, that involves a serial killer, which is, I saw this movie as a kid, and it is one of the most crazy, shocking, memorable gore sequences, and it's fantastic. It doesn't even show that much, but it's enough for you to just freak the F out. And yeah, once you get to Martin Sheen, and you kind of get a sense for where this movie's going. It's tremendous. It's great drama, and I also want to give a little mention to a great actor named Herbert Lom, who a lot of people might know from the Pink Panther movies, but he plays a survivor of the Holocaust who's now a doctor and a kind of a psychologist, and the confidant to Johnny Smith, played by Christopher Walken, and their scenes are really wonderful and give a little more dramatic oomph to this movie. And to echo Luca, this is my favorite Christopher Walken performance. He's not, weird, crazy Christopher Walken that we kind of know these days. This is an actual character that he's playing, and he puts so much soul and heart into it. And yeah, it's a yes for me, Chance. So I just made your life hard.
I want to quickly bring up just one more thing that I forgot to mention about the film that Jeremy talked about from a Cronenberg perspective. Is you're right, he doesn't have the same sort of body horror focus in this film that he does in a lot of his earlier films. And I think to an extent we kind of owe the existence of films like Crash and films like Dead Ringers and films like Maps of the Stars and Cronenberg's later work kind of on this film, because it showed that he could do that kind of thing. We wouldn't have some of the great sort of black comedies and drama films that we have from Cronenberg in later in his career if not for this film. And I think it's very, very important for that reason as well.
Yeah.
Okay, just quick question. Not Hunter. Jeremy, Luca, does Deer Hunter exist to you guys? Because that's the best Walken performance. But regardless, going to me, I do like The Dead Zone quite a bit. However, it's just outside, not just outside my top 7, it's outside my top 10 King movies. So I really, I do like The Dead Zone quite a bit. Yeah, and everything you said is correct, because the whole gore sequence is fantastic, and Cronenberg's direction is great. And Christopher Walken, great. It's probably my number 2 Walken performance, followed by number 3, The Country Bears, because he's really good in that movie. Like, no lie. That's the most serious I've ever seen Walken.
This is not over.
But as much as I love Christopher Walken, and I do love Christopher Walken a lot, but I can't give Dead Zone top 7. Close, but not top 7 for me. Means we come back to me. So,
how many do we have? How many do we have in? We have 5 or 6.
We have 4.
4.
Oh, that was our first no.
It's 4.
All
right. So, coming back to me. Now, keep in mind, the title of this video is the top 5 Stephen King movies. not the top 5 best Stephen King adaptations.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain movie I wanted to be eligible. And that movie is one that I started off as a screenplay. No source material. It's strictly a screenplay written by King. And that movie is Sleepwalkers. Now, let me pitch it to you. Let me set the scene for you guys. They're a man and a woman.
Can't be serious, Chad.
They are disappearing cat monsters. Not just that, they're incested disappearing cat monsters. And from that, Ron Perlman's gonna be Mark Hamill's gonna be. I'm fucking with you now.
Oh, you had us going, Chance.
Okay.
You had us going. I was gonna talk about how much I enjoyed that piece of crap.
No, my real nomination, but it is one star off the screenplay. Because my real nomination is Creepshow. Now, Creepshow, I think, showcases just the outright insanity that Stephen King can bring to the table, and insanity in a good way. Because Creepshow is a movie that, on paper, should not work. It's from a screenplay written by King and it's directed by George A. Romero. Now, like, you hear some of the idea. Like, if you said George A. Romero wanted cartoons in his scary movie, it'd be seen as nuts. If you said neon backgrounds are going to pop up for no reason at random, along with comic book panels, it'd be seen as nuts. If you said, as actors, Stephen King could make you laugh, E.G. Marshall could make you paranoid, and Leslie Nielsen could be one of the most intimidating bad guys ever put to screen, that is insane. Like, it shouldn't have worked, but it is. This is truly, I think, the most Stephen King movie ever put to screen. Like, Shawshank is great, but we've seen movies like that. Stand By Me is great, but we've seen movies like that. I have never seen anything to match the insanity of Creepshow. Might be a lie, but Creepshow definitely, like, Stephen King at his most unique, and Stephen King at his most Stephen King-ish. I love it. I've seen it a million times. I'll see it a million times more in the future. So I think Creepshow should be on the top 7. I'm gonna go to Jeremy first.
I love Creepshow. It's, and I will argue with you, Chance, all those neon panels and all that stuff is not unnecessary because Creepshow's inspired just like...
I didn't say unnecessary.
Okay, whatever you said.
I said at random.
At random. Okay, well, yeah, it's inspired by the EC comics of the 1950s, just like Tales from the Crypt, the series was. These were, these great comics that came out that were kind of ghoulish, colorful, violent comics, anthology stories that kids read, and then parents kind of got onto it and they got banned, and it's really hard to find a lot of them now because parents are throwing them out, and they deal with that in the movie because it's this kid has this comic, his dad doesn't want him to read it, and that's kind of a reference back to the history of the EC comics. But yeah, it's an anthology movie. It's 5 stories. It's a lot of it is really comedic. It's dark black comedy. It's a lot of fun, and I actually had the comic adaptation that went with it, and that was fantastic. If anyone can find that, it was released along with the movie, and it's all written directly by Stephen King, all the panels and everything. It's really fantastic. But yeah, it's a really awesome movie. I always recommend it. Unfortunately, though, on my top 10, it's number 9. There's probably like 15 at least Stephen King movies that I love. So to say that a movie I love isn't in the top 7 or isn't even in the top 10 is not an insult, because it's a fantastic movie. But I just because we've already got 4 and I got some more that are higher up for me, I am going to have to very borderline say no on Creepshow. But everybody watch it because it's really great.
Son of a bitch. All right.
Sorry.
I feel like that was my best bet. I'm going to try Luca. Creepshow does it make top 7?
The movie fucking rocks. Yeah, it makes top 7.
Yes.
Movie's fantastic. I think that like it's there are a couple of stories in Creepshow, notably the first one and the one with Stephen King acting in it, that I think kind of missed the mark a little bit. But I don't think that matters because it all contributes to this big atmosphere. And some of those EC comics, Tales from the Crypt, Creepshow comics, are shit. And they just kind of they're pulpy and they're not scary or funny or particularly fun, but they just add to this atmosphere. And Creepshow has this atmosphere so perfect. And you're right, Leslie Nielsen is great. I think to call him one of the most threatening villains on screen is insane, to be honest, and also wrong. But he's great. My favorite of the stories in this one is the last one. They're creeping up on you.
Oh, okay.
With Upson Pratt.
Nice.
and the bugs, which is just, it has a fantastic climax to it. Yeah, this movie is awesome. For me, it makes top 7.
I really do love Creepshow, and I love Leslie Nielsen in that movie. So
I just have to add, I'm sorry, real quick. When they played Creepshow on TV in the States, they cut out their creeping up on you because they thought it was too horrifying. Like, they couldn't even play it on TV.
Oh, wow. That's nice. And it seems like I'm trying to oversell Creepshow because I just love that movie so much. But I'm going to skip past Hunter because I'm 99% sure you hadn't seen it.
No
I'm going
way.
straight to
You'll
Brian.
be correct.
Yep.
Ooh, it's all on you, Brian.
It's all on you.
Oh, I was going to say it was going to be up to Hunter because I'm kind of in the same boat as Jeremy. But I mean, I don't like it as much as him. I enjoy the movie, but I just think that it would be outside my top 10. There's too many other movies I prefer on there. I mean, I enjoy the stories in it. Actually, it's not even my favorite anthology of Stephen King. I know it's not a good movie, but I actually enjoy Cat's Eye for some reason. I like a lot of those stories.
Love Cat's Eye.
But Creepshow is a good movie that's just not going to make my top 10, so I will not have to vote no on that.
Oh, son of a bitch. All right, well.
So we can blame Hunter for not seeing it from the list.
I blame Hunter.
Now you know how we feel about Dead Zone, which is a better movie than Creepshow.
Dead Zone is a better movie than Creepshow.
Plays me for everything, so I'm used to it by now.
All right, well, Creepshow, to my much dismay, does not make top 7. I wonder if it would have made it with Dan and Caleb, but nevertheless, going back to Brian for his next nomination.
Okay, there are 4 in. Now, do I go for one that I think that'll make it, or one that I just want to talk about? I'm going to go for one that I don't know how people here feel about, and it might not make the list, but I enjoy it, and that is actually the original 1989, I believe, adaptation of Pet Sematary. I mean, there's kind of the serious Stephen King movies, like most of the ones you've already put on there, and then there's kind of just the cheesy horror Stephen King movies, and Pet Sematary, I think, is one of the better ones of those. I mean, parts of it get a little unintentionally funny, with little Miko Hughes. Yeah, I want to play with you. But I mean,
No, Daddy,
I actually, when I originally saw it when I was years old, and I thought it was a good horror movie. I thought it was a great adaptation of the book, even though, of course, as usual, there were some changes. I thought the acting was pretty decent in it, and for at least at the age I was when I first saw it, I thought it was pretty creepy. And when I rewatched it recently, it held up. So I'm going to vote for Pet Sematary.
All right, so Pet Sematary is on the table. I'm going to go to me first, and in the words of the immortal Fred Gwynn, I don't want to go up that road. That's not the exact quote, but
that's South Park, I think.
Just for Fred Gwynn alone, you got to vote yes.
It's not the exact quote. It's like the whole thing is like a lot of history on that road. A
lot of history on that ski run.
A lot of history on that. Man, because let the show just be Fred Gwynn impressions. Anyways, but no, Pet Sematary I do like quite a bit, and even like seeing the new one, which spoiler I do like, but I think I like the original quite more. My appreciation kind of grew for that a little bit more because it does have a lot of personality. It does have a lot of like dread to it, and it does have a lot of like a stylistic approach to it. But in the end, I think it's just outside, just like Dead Zone, it's just outside my top 10. I know the list is shrinking, but there's still movies I'd rather put on here than Pet Sematary. So it's gonna be a no from me. I'm gonna go to Luca next. Pet Sematary.
Yeah, so I mean, I find Pet Sematary to be a kind of, it's kind of plotting, and the reason that I don't think the film works is that I don't buy the Creed family in this version of Pet Sematary as a real cohesive family unit.
Yeah.
I don't really feel a lot of sympathy for Dale Midkiff's patriarch of the family, and I just, it never stuck with me as really feeling that same tragedy that some of Stephen King's adaptations are so good at, especially when dealing with families. So I kind of have to lean on no. I find it to be a pretty dull watch every time I watch it. Even though it does have a nice atmosphere and a really good Ramones song. And besides that, there's not a huge amount of love in it for me. So I'm gonna give that one a no.
No love for Fred Gwynn. Shame. All right, whatever. I'm gonna take a leap of faith. Hunter, have you seen this movie?
I have seen this one.
Okay, there we go.
Finally. Yeah, I kind of agree with Chance here. It's like, the movie's good. It's entertaining, in my opinion. But we already have, 5 on the list, or 4?
4.
Four.
And there's a lot more that we haven't talked about
Four.
that should be on the list. So I'm going to edge towards no, just barely.
All right, so I believe that closes that. What closes
Yeah.
that one out? Pet Sematary
Yeah.
does not make top 7. Jared, what would you say?
Well, I love Fred Gwynn. I love the Ramones song, and I love Zelda. Zelda, may she live forever. But yeah, the movie isn't a great movie. Yeah, I think even if you want to go for cheesy Stephen King, you've got Creepshow and you've got some other things. It would be an honorable mention for me. I do enjoy the movie a lot, but yeah, it wouldn't have quite made my top 10. But yeah, it's interesting to see, you know, Mary Lambert, a female director, making that movie in '89 and putting her own touches on it. I think that's very cool. And I like the movie, but yeah, just not quite up there for me.
I want to point out also with the Ramones song you brought up. I've always had a problem with that song because it says it doesn't want to be buried in a pet cemetery. But it wasn't the pet cemetery. It was Native American burial ground well beyond the pet cemetery.
It was
Those
beyond
lyrics
the
don't work
Pet
as well.
Cemetery. You can bury,
Close
you can bury
enough.
me there. But that's the issue. That's the issue with the title. It's not the issue with the song. So we go back to
It's
Jared
still
Braden's
a burial ground for pets. It's another
Yeah.
pet cemetery. Yeah, let's not beat around the bush anymore. Let's go to my favorite horror movie of all time. Luca lost his opportunity to dominate it, so I'm going to be the one. It is the one, the only Stanley Kubrick's immortal film, The Shining. Yes, I'm glad that you said that these are Stephen King movies and not Stephen King adaptations, because this is not a good or faithful adaptation of the book. In fact, Stephen King himself hates this movie, but you know, that doesn't matter because it's one great artist taking another great artist's material, sculpting it, making it his own, making something out of it. And this film, starring Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall, as this very troubled family unit with Danny Lloyd as their son, Danny Torrance, going into this hotel to be the caretakers over the winter. And just the cabin fever that sets in, the psychological issues. You know, Jack having been a recovering alcoholic who really isn't recovering because you don't see
Not
that he's
at all.
really got any treatment or anything. He's just kind of, you know, what they call a dry drunk, and they're all stuck in this situation.
at the stage where all he can do is say, like, I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't even know how self-aware he is. But yeah, and you also get this backstory right at the beginning where he's actually, when he was drunk, he hurt Danny. So there's this shred of doubt in this family about, will he hurt them? He's hurt his son before, and all of this going in, and then you get into this incredible environment with all these sets to create the overlook that Kubrick built. It's all fake, but to me, having seen it as a kid, I actually saw this movie when I was 5. I think it might be the first horror movie I ever saw, which is kind of wrong, but it's one of those things. I think I was 6 or 7 when I saw The Exorcist. So it's like when you see horror movies as a kid, I feel like
so much.
Yeah, I feel like one of two things are going to happen. Either you're going to, hate horror movies forever and never want to watch them, or what's going to happen to me which is I love horror movies, and they opened my mind in this crazy way at a very young age. And this movie, to me, it's like that. The overlook in this movie is real. The environments are real. Every time I forget, I'm watching a movie, because Kubrick just envelops you into this environment. And it's an incredible story. There's a lot of ambiguity in it, but at the same time, you have a pretty good idea that something crazy and supernatural is going on, and preying on this family, and preying on Danny, who has this incredible psychological gift, the psychic gift. I love, maybe my favorite scene is the scene between the boy and Scatman Crothers, where they have a psychic conversation with each other that really even adds more to the mood and what's going on in this film. And I just think the changes that he made with, instead of these crazy hedge animals in the book, he made this maze, the hedge maze, which is so unforgettable. And obviously he used it beautifully for the end of the film as the climax, and, other changes that he made in the movie.
The axe instead of the mallet.
Yeah, the axe instead of the mallet. What he did with the bathroom scene with the woman in there is just unforgettable. There's so many unforgettable moments. It's a very slow film. It's a slow build, but I think in this case, that is perfect. It's just enveloping you in this dread and building to this incredible crescendo. And it's The Shining. It's my favorite horror movie. What can you say?
All right, so The Shining is up for top 7. I'm gonna go to our last nominator, which was Brian. So Brian, The Shining, does it make top 7?
You know, I'm not generally a fan of like the slow build horror because obviously many times it's not done very well. But I think that Kubrick was able to do it perfectly. Kubrick with me is a hit and miss director. A lot of people like things that I don't of his, but The Shining is one of his. I think is not only one of his best, but one of Stephen King's best as well. Although, like the others have pointed out, there are so many differences from his original novel. And actually, they made that miniseries with Steven Weber that was much more faithful to the original. But I still like that it exists though, because you kind of see if you watch that versus the movie, you can see everything that was changed and kind of why it really worked better. Now I don't know if it hands of a different director. If they did direct adaptation, it might have been just as good. But I think Kubrick did a great job. Of course, the acting across the board is amazing, and definitely yes for me.
All right, so that is a. Luca, just tell us how you feel about this.
The Shining is a masterpiece. It's one of the most perfect films ever made. It's got an incredible production design to it. It does not have a single bad or wasted performance, a single bad or wasted line, a single bad or wasted shot. Everything is so meticulously placed. Everything is so meticulously crafted. Everything is so like top to bottom, incredible construction. I'm not usually massively into films that are like kind of cold and calculated in the way that Kubrick's movies are, but he's always an exception for me because there's just so much craft and so much virtuosity in there. And even though his films are very meticulously crafted and kind of very impersonal, I think, often, not always, The Shining really breaks through. And there's a real emotive power to it. And I think that there is a real sort of sense of kind of tragedy, of fear, of especially with Shelley Duvall's character, just wanting to do her best all the time and consistently being knocked down for that. And I think that she's such an incredible performer in this movie, and she gets a bit of flack from people. I don't understand why. She's
I don't understand why either.
No,
she in my mind is like.
I think she gets flack because it's Shelley Duvall.
Yeah,
fair, but like, I mean, poor fucking woman. This film is absolutely perfect. Yes.
Okay, so that's it. The Shining makes top 7. Going for me, this would have been a yes. Now, I think we all touched on the fact that Stephen King does not like this movie because he doesn't like the movie, and I see why. Because I've read the Shining book. Yeah, the Shining book it's a story about a guy being slowly driven to madness. His big complaint is that from scene fucking 1. I mean, we have Jack Nicholson, so it kind of goes without saying. From scene 1, Jack is crazy. But like, to me, the movie was never really about that for me. For me, I always saw this less as a guy being driven to being crazy, and more of a crazy guy being shown for who he really is. Mm-hmm. Like, remember, like, Jack was always the caretaker. Jack was always this way. Like, there's a lot of levels to it, so much so there's actually a documentary interpreting The Room, interpreting The Shining, trying to figure out what it's about. Because there are a lot of different interpretations to it that a lot of people brought to the table. And yeah, I think The Shining is very unique. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I do love it, and yeah, I actually wrote it down prematurely because I knew we were going to make the list. And Hunter, what would you have said about The Shining?
Oh, hell yes! It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And everybody else said everything about it. The acting, the script, the scares are really good even today. But I will say this real quick. The one thing that I think the TV series did a bit better than the movie was the evolution of Steven Weber's character from normal everyday guy to insane. Now the movie's obviously better, but I like that kind of evolution from those series. But
I don't really think that it's particularly comparable. I don't think one is doing something better than another thing. They're trying to do two completely different things.
Definitely.
All right, so yeah, so that's gonna be it, and we go back to Hunter with a nomination that I'm pretty sure I can see coming. But Hunter, go ahead.
I mean, I have to. You'll float too. You'll float too. I have to go the 2017 It. Just because, like, I saw this movie in theaters multiple times. The kids are incredible. I love kind of the Stand By Me element of it, where it's coming of age. They have to take out Pennywise. Pennywise is fucking creepy in this movie. The scares are good. The script is amazing, and just everything about this movie is perfectly done. I cannot wait for the sequel. So, yep, It 2017.
Hey, Hunter, do you have Prince Albert in a can?
Well, yeah, gotta get him out then.
What?
What?
Man, every time I see my sister, like during Halloween time, we all agree what's up. What?
God bless you, Tim Curry.
I showed her. Okay. But we're not talking about. We're talking about. We left his name, Bill Skarsgård. Bill Skarsgård, 2017.
Yep.
To Jamie.
Okay. Yeah, I had been waiting for a new version of It. One of my favorite things. Oh, yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
One of my favorite things when I was a kid was the TV miniseries of It. I actually had it on taped it on VHS when it aired on ABC, and I used to actually come home from school when I was like 12 and just watch the first part of that. The first it just made me happy. It was like my jam. But the years go by. You reread the book and you think about it, and you realize how that old miniseries doesn't quite hold up very good. Other than the greatness of Tim Curry, it's pretty bad. And so I was really, some of them, but you know what? Sorry, my young self is hating me right now, but yeah, there's some bad acting.
You, Seth Green.
Seth Green was good. So I was anticipating this, and yeah, I thought they really nailed it. I thought that the relationships between the kids really is the main thing that makes the movie work. I think setting it in the 80s maybe was pandering to me a little bit because I'm like just about the same age as these kids, but I think they really captured that time period very well. I think little humorous touches like the use of New Kids on the Block really make the movie sing. But what it really comes down to is Pennywise. Does Pennywise work? And they nailed it. I think Bill Skarsgård's tremendous. It's kind of was going back and forth for me, but at the end I decided, this would make my top 7. So I'm going to say yes on It. I think the movie, they really nailed it. And like Hunter, I'm very excited for the part 2, and I'm hoping they do it better this time because boy, they blew it with the miniseries.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't lead to like giant spiders and slingshots. I think we'll be all right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to Brian next.
When I first saw the topic and realized that we're gonna have 7 movies that are gonna make this list, there are 6 that I was pretty sure had locked in places, and this one is gonna make all 6 of them locked in. Because I'm gonna say yes to It as well. I mean, this is another one of those I don't love quite as much as everybody else. I really do. I love it. I like it a lot. But some people are like, best horror movie ever. Not ready to go there yet. But I really do like it, and a lot of that is driven by the performances of the kids, and like they were saying, they really they rang true. You felt like the real characters. It felt like you were back in that time period, and I'm gonna say yes for It.
All right, so that's gonna be so that's it. It chapter 1 makes top 7. I almost said chapter 2. We're gonna reserve the rest of the list for It chapter 2. So that makes the list. Luke and I didn't get votes. I think had this been brought up earlier, I probably would have said no, but because a few of my picks have been eliminated, I would have probably edged towards yes. Luke, what would you have said?
I think that It is a very good film, and I think that it's obviously an enormous upgrade on the first movie. The one, the miniseries is what I mean. The Losers Club is really, really good in this film, and Skarsgård is kind of a tour de force as Pennywise. He's really, really brilliant.
Mhm.
The issue that I have is not with it itself, but the fact that there's another 2017 movie based on a Stephen King book that I think is so much better.
I
And
think I
is
know which one
so
you're talking about. I actually had that one
and
on
I
my list.
really, really wanted that to get a leg in, and I'm not sure it will. So I would have said no. Have we lost Chance?
You there,
lost
Chance?
Yeah, look, I was really battling between it and that movie. I was just like,
Chance.
Think we did lose Chance.
Chance temporarily.
Hey, it happened again.
Luke,
Oh,
you
God,
or next?
no.
You want to go? Or?
Who would have been? Oh,
There he is. Wait,
Chance.
I see him. Woo.
What's up? My bad.
All right.
I cut out for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's Luca next. Luca's up next.
Yep.
Okay. We've only got one left. Let's go for something completely different. We've talked about a few films that are, kind of very traditional, what we would expect from Stephen King adaptations. So we're talking about the horror vein, and then we're talking about some more kind of dramatic films. I want to bring up something a little bit weird and a little bit like kind of outside of what you would expect. I'm going to go with The Running Man. Purely because I just think it's such a fun ride. I think it's such an entertaining romp. And I love the sort of sci-fi dystopian action game show aspect to it. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger is as enjoyable as ever in it. I think Yaphet Kotto and Jesse Ventura in particular are like standouts in that film. It's not, got the same, big focus on atmosphere or really sort of intense, like uplifting drama as some of King's other adaptations, and it is admittedly a very, very loose adaptation of the book. But I think it's such a fun, action-packed romp, and it's got such a vibrant aesthetic to it, and I think it just looks so cool. I think that it's just a great ride. So I think that let's just get something a little bit weird and a little bit different in that last spot and go with The Running Man.
All right, so The Running Man is up for. I gotta admit, Luke, I'm a little impressed. I didn't think you'd be the one to bring this.
Yeah.
All the people that's picked it up, I thought might bring it up. He would have been my last choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love The Running Man.
Sandy and Harley aren't here, so I didn't think it would get
Okay,
brought
but
up.
regardless, the running Man is upper top 7, and let's see. Hold on, let's see. I'm gonna flip a coin to decide whether or not I'm gonna go to Hunter.
I feel
Tails.
like maybe
Hunter, yeah.
I'm guessing this
You
is
haven't
one
seen
he's seen.
maybe it is connected to wrestling.
I'm guessing.
No.
He hasn't seen it.
Sadly not. Not
It's
yet.
It's got
wrestling,
Jesse Ventura
Hunter.
in it. Come on.
It's got wrestling people. Come on.
I fucking called it. So yeah, no,
Damn.
Hunter doesn't count this time. All right, so I'm gonna go to Brian.
Like I said, I did not expect Luca to bring this up. I thought if anybody, it might be like a Hunter outside chance on Jeremy, just because 80s. But I'm actually going to vote yes on Running Man. It's probably about my number. It's probably about my number 7 because it is a fun movie. Richard Dawson as the host, and as far as Arnold Schwarzenegger action movies go, I thought it was one of the ones that has a little bit more personality to it, especially those 80s movies. So yeah.
No, you
I'll
did
say
Commando.
yes, and make
No,
somebody
you
else make the
did
decision.
Commando.
My Commando's awful. Anyway.
Oh, okay. You know what? We're canceling
Let-
Brian Michaels.
Let off some steam, Brian.
All right. So that's one yes for Running Man. Gonna go to Jeremy.
I love The Running Man. It's if you want 80s cheese, you can't do much better. It's fantastic. It's it takes the very short novella that Stephen King wrote and shits 80s all over it. It has nothing to do with it. It's completely different, but hey, they took this core idea of this TV show where people, fight to the death, and they made something fun out of it. And like Richard Dawson, great weird video game host from the 70s. Actually gives a really fun performance in this movie. I think, taking these stalkers and giving them all like these WWE type personas and get-ups and all this stuff, it's so much fun. But yeah, it's not one that would have made my top 10, but it was definitely a runners up that I would have mentioned, and it's a fun movie. But I do have to say no on it. It's fun, but it's not one that is way up there for me. But I will say shout out to Sandy, for my friend Sandy, this is the only Stephen King movie. So
if Jeremy starts off his little bit by telling you that he loves the movie, you are fucked.
I'm pretty sure Sandy also likes it, even though it took him forever to see it because he had a chicken by his own admission. I'm not trying to talk shit.
Yeah, but yeah, no, not. The Running Man is like there's the Running Man, and then there's everything else for Sandy. That is his jam.
Okay. Going to me next. This is actually a tough one because I'm not sure if the next one I'm gonna bring, because I do love the Running Man quite a bit, and I'm not sure the next one I'm gonna bring up will make it. So, tough. You know what? Screw it. I'm gonna give Running Man a yes. I'm gonna close up the top 7.
Oh damn!
Don't even make sense. All right.
Here lies Gerald's game. Now playing game.
that was one I was like battling between the two.
Speaking of, well, now
I also wasn't sure if we were considering Netflix films eligible. I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah, they had made that before. You missed that conversation.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Going in honorable mentions. The next one I was going to bring up, Gerald's Game because I do think that's a great movie.
Yeah.
I would have said yes.
Carla Gugino is fantastic. I really like Bruce Green in the movie.
I would have made it then because I would have voted yes too.
There's so many great themes in that movie of how much scarring is on the inside versus how much scarring is on the outside. There's so much to love about that movie. And another one I would have brought up, the one that's actually had a lot of parallels with Gerald's Game, is Dolores Claiborne. Dolores Claiborne I think is really good. The other Kathy Bates Stephen King movie. Gonna go to Luca. Any honorable mentions for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very impressed that we went from it being the second film nominated to nobody mentioning The Green Mile, because we made the decision that we were going to have the prison movie and then let it be. But I do love The Green Mile. It's my favorite Darabont King prison movie. I think that it's a really, really wonderful story, and I think it's got just so many incredible performances from Rockwell to Hanks to Michael Clark Duncan. I just think it's brilliant from start to finish. I have a lot of fun with 1408 and The Mist. I think that really Cujo is a pretty good movie that has that same sort of very confined space, threat from outside, gonna get in, you need to sort that out. And besides that, I like Christine. I think that Christine's a good watch.
All right. Jeremy, any other honorable mentions for you?
You guys pretty much covered all the ones that I wrote down. I just want to give shout outs to Christine, which, is the only John Carpenter adaptation of a Stephen King book. And like Cronenberg, I would love to have seen some more Carpenter adaptations. But Christine is a really good one. It's a little, light, it's not a very heavy movie, but if you just want a good fun horror movie, it's really well done. And I would give shout outs to Dolores Claiborne. That's a really good movie. That's a great drama, great performances from Kathy Bates and Jennifer Jason Leigh. I really do like 1408 a lot. I think they took, this very slim little story and made a really interesting psychological movie out of it that isn't just like supernatural horror, but also kind of goes into this guy's psyche and his demons and the grief that he's going through. And it's really well done. And then the next one I would have nominated would have been The Mist. I think The Mist is fantastic. I think it's, Frank Darabont's third adaptation. I think is right up there with the other two that he did. And the black and white version, if you can see that version of it, that was kind of what he originally intended the movie to be. It was in black and white, and it even works better. And then, of course, The Green Mile actually was one of my mom's favorite movies, so it's kind of close to my heart. It's a great film. Sam Rockwell, I want to shout out in that movie, is fantastic. But, the whole cast is fantastic. And then since I didn't have anything else written down, I'll just throw out a few other ones. Like Brian said, I really have a soft spot for Cat's Eye. I think that's a good anthology movie. It's got some fun stuff in it. And one that people, kind of forget about, but I really think it's interesting how it ties in with some of his characters and his other movies is The Dark Half with Timothy Hutton and Michael Rooker. A story about an author who's kind of got something weird going on where he had a pseudonym, which is kind of based on Richard Bachman, which was Stephen King's pseudonym. And then all of a sudden something's going on where maybe this guy is actually alive and killing people, this pseudonym that he had written and then had killed. So it's a good psychological story. And then also connected to that is it's not a great movie, but it's one that I always enjoy. I've always liked watching it. Is Needful Things, which is another one set in Castle Rock with Ed Harris and Max von Sydow. It's a fun movie. If you just like kind of a fun horror movie with somebody who may or may not be the devil in it, it's enjoyable. So those are just a few I would throw out there. But yeah, even some of the bad ones I enjoy. I just think this guy has a great body of work as an author, and there's a wealth of different movies, TV shows, miniseries, things you can watch with Stephen King, and there's so much that I enjoy.
Also, quick shout out to the show Castle Rock. If you're a Stephen King fan, I would really recommend checking out that show on Hulu. If you haven't done it already. Hunter, any honorable mentions for you? I know you have
course, two of the greatest that I'm surprised didn't come up. Dreamcatchers and Sleepwalkers. I mean, come on, guys. Really?
Sleepwalkers. Okay, I'll legitimately throw out Sleepwalkers. It's so bad.
Sleepwalkers is fun, and our friend RJ legitimately loves Dreamcatchers. So I'll go ahead and shout him out for that. He legitimately thinks it's a good movie. So there you go, RJ. You got your shout out.
That sounds like
seriously though. Of course, The Mist got brought up. Gerald's Game I thought was amazing. And this one is just for me. Children of the Corn. It's cheesy. It's bad. But my God, is Isaac one of the greatest characters? The movie is just so fucked up, and it's so fun to watch.
Shout out to Children of the Corn 5 with Eva Mendes in it. Films.
Oh, man.
Do not question my judgment.
Malachi.
And Brian, any honorable mentions for you?
There were basically only three more that I thought I would have possibly nominated. Gerald's Game, like everyone else said, I really enjoyed the adaptation of that one with Carla Gugino. 1408 was one I had no expectations for and ended up really enjoying that film. And the last one, which nobody brought up, but I really like it. It's another one of his more character-based ones. It's anchored largely in the performance of Ian McKellen was Apt Pupil. I mean, the behind-the-scenes stories of Bryan Singer notwithstanding, let's ignore that for a moment. I thought the movie was actually well done. I thought Brad Renfro was decent in it, and Ian McKellen did a masterful job in that.
All right. So one more I'll throw out. Just another so bad it's good to watch. I ironically enjoy Maximum Overdrive. The only Stephen King movie Stephen King directed himself.
That's a good, stupid, fun movie to watch.
So
I'm sorry, guys.
If we're talking about stupid fun movies, I have an just inordinate, ungodly amount of fun with both Lawnmower Man movies.
I can't watch it more than
Brosnan is one of my favorite actors to hate watch in the world.
Yeah, I can't deal with Maximum Overdrive. That movie bores me. But Lawnmower Man, that's fun. I'll give you that one.
Oh, come on. Pat Commissioner Gordon shoots a bazooka at that movie. Come on. But anyways, we come to the second round. We have our top 7, so just a reminder for people watching channel right here. Our top 7 is The Shawshank Redemption, Stand By Me, Carrie, Ms. It's, and The Running Man. So really solid top 7 Stephen King. But now we come to the elimination round. What this works is the opposite of round 1. We can go around nominate a different Stephen King movie to get knocked off the top 7. So it gets it off. So everyone got one on. Go to somebody who didn't get one on. So because Jeremy won the Stephen King, the Full Metal Random, I'm going to go to him first for his first knock.
Okay, you're breaking up a little bit, but I'm assuming I'm the one that I want us to take off, right? All All right, the one that one I'm going to
yes.
nominate to take off is The Running Man.
The Running Man. Okay. Luca, you put this on. So do you want to knock it off or do you want to leave it on?
Oh, I want to knock it off. Running Man's a fun movie, but it's not of the same caliber as the rest of them. I love it.
Okay.
I love it to bits. I absolutely adore it, but it's not at the same level.
All right. So if the person put it on won't even keep it on. Let's see if anybody else decides to leave it. Actually, you know what? That's it because Hunter hasn't seen it, so it's automatically on.
No.
All right. So that's automatically off. Brian, would you have kept it on or left it off? I would take it off.
Running Man is a great number 7 movie. It's not a top 5 movie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but now we've come to the last cut. So I'm gonna give this to Luca because
what movies are left? I'm sorry.
Shawshank, Stand by Me, Carrie, Misery, Shining, and It.
God damn.
So Luca, what do you want to knock off?
I think that ultimately, when I go down the list of films, everything has like something that like really stands out as a thing that this movie does better than almost any other movie. Like The Shawshank Redemption,
We lost Luca.
We lost him again.
He usually bounce. All right. You went out for a second.
You're back, Luca.
You're back.
Okay, so I think that the only film on this list that doesn't do like something better than like almost any other movie in its category is It. It is a really, really good horror movie, but I think that there are more exceptional aspects to every other film on the list than there is to It. So I will say It.
Fair enough. It is on the table. Hunter, you put it on. Do you want to leave it on or knock it off?
You know what? I'm fine with it being off the list. I'm fine with that.
Wow.
Interesting.
All right.
Surprisingly, but with all that's left,
all right, Jeremy, do you want to? I mean, you could kill It, or you could, leave it on the top 5. So,
well, all cards on the table. It was my number 7, and there were enough movies that got on that were ahead of it. So yes, I vote to take it off.
All right, so that's it. Wow, that was the fastest elimination run I've had in a very long time. Because right now I have our top 5. Brian, would you have kept it on or knocked it off?
Well, the only one that I would have wanted to knock off, everyone else wants to keep on. So I would have voted to keep it on, but I know I would have lost.
Yeah.
All right. So that's it. We have our top 5 right now is Shawshank Redemption, Stand by Me, Carrie, Misery, The Shining. Oh, no, that's 5. All right, so we have our 5. So now we come to the ranking portion of the show. We're just going to go around, write down on a whiteboard, paper, whatever, what we believe deserves to go in each spot. We're going to go 4, 3, and then the number 1. I'll write down what we believe should be the number 5. I right already. I need to catch up. All right. I think we're all ready. I'm gonna go with me first. I have Carrie at number 5. Gonna go to Brian.
I didn't think anyone else would say that. Carrie.
Hunter.
I actually have Stand By Me.
Ooh.
What?
Jeremy.
Shocking, because I love this movie so much that it would be at the end of my bottom of my list, but Stand By Me.
Oh, Luca. Do you have either of these 2 movies?
I am going to be changing my vote. I'm not going to tell you what I wrote down. I'm going to say that Stand By Me is number 5.
All right, Stand By Me is at number 5. Now, if you all write down what should go in the number 4 spot on the list. I'm going to go to me and Brian first because our lists have not, our votes have not changed. At least they shouldn't. Yeah, we're both going Gary again. I'm gonna go to Luca first. Luca next this time.
Red Dead Redemption. Shawshank.
Hit him late. All right. Gonna go to Jeremy.
I have Misery.
Ooh, and Hunter, what do you have?
I have Carrie.
Ooh, there you go.
All right, so there we go. Carrie is the number 4 movie on the list. Now we go to the number 3 spot on the list. And now this is getting hard.
Yeah.
Too much information.
All right.
Oh.
All right. I think we're all well and good. I believe I'm gonna venture to say Luca didn't change. Luca?
The inferior of the two Frank Darabont prison Stephen King movies.
All right. I'm gonna guess Jeremy didn't change also.
Yeah, I stupidly erased it and had to rewrite it, but Misery.
It happens. It happens to the best of us. I also have Misery. So going to Brian next.
The better prison movie, but still my number 3, Shawshank Redemption.
Ooh, Hunter, do you have either of these two movies?
Shawshank Redemption.
Interesting.
Shawshank Redemption at number
Wow.
3. Interesting. All right, so we now get to vote for the number 1 Stephen King movie of all time. Is it going to be
Ooh.
Misery or is it going to be The Shining?
This is the top 2, by the way.
Yeah, this is really fucking hard.
I'm good with it.
Personally, I think this is really easy, but like this is the top 2.
Yeah. All right, vote for number 1, correct?
Yes, we vote for number 1. We never vote for number 2 because that's pointless. All right. I think we're ready. I'm going to go with me first. I have The Shining. All right, going to Brian.
It's The Shining, boy. Do you want to get sued? The Shining.
Okay. Hunter.
The Shining.
All right, well, let's see for the sake of saying, Jeremy.
Give me the bet. Give me the bet, Wendy. The Shining.
Give me that.
And I know what Luca put down. Luca.
How do you like it?
All right, so our top 5 is number 5, Stand By Me. Number 4, Carrie. Number 3, The Shawshank Redemption. Number 2, Misery. And the number 1 Stephen King movie of all time, The Shining.
Sounds
Big
about
on my
right.
girl Kathy Bates at number 2, man.
Yeah, well, this was a great way. This is a great panel. This was a great list. This was a great way to end the show. So thank you to all of you who came, who participated, who watched Full Metal 5. This will be the last episode. This will be the last episode for this channel. See, I'm going to be moving this format, this show. It's not going to be called Full Metal 5 anymore, so I'm honest in that sense, because Full Metal 5 is no more, but I will be launching a new top 5 show under a different name, under a different time. So stay tuned for that. I will say where it's going to be on the page when I figure that out. But until then, Chance Ellison, not on the panel. Thank you to everyone from Full Metal Media who helped me with this show. Every one of you who came on at some point, I really appreciate you all. As difficult as you made my life sometimes. And I will see you.
Especially me.
Especially you, Hunter.
I've made it